Heyo everybody, welcome back to Simple Songwriting Breakdowns. We are doing Heavy as the Crown by Linkin Park, and I actually mean we literally this time, not just me and you. I have a guest on this time. Say hi, Savannah.
Hiya.
Savannah is, she's been kind of my helper behind the scenes with getting me set up with all this stuff, with OBS and streaming software, and she's been really loving the new Linkin Park stuff, as have I and Aubrey. So I thought it'd be really fun to bring her on, let her say hi, and we could just talk about this really cool song. So, Savannah, maybe give your first thoughts on the song and like what's your history with Linkin Park?
Okay, a little background on me. My name's Savannah. I'm friends with Cameron's girlfriend Shelby, and I've been listening to Linkin Park. That was like my first favorite band I think I ever had growing up when I was 12, hitting sixth grade, middle school when you started to find your own music. I wasn't just listening to Dad's Black Sabbath, Judas Priest anymore, right?
Yeah.
Which is still great. But Linkin Park was probably my first band that I fell in love with by myself. And he graced me with the discography at the time. So that was the first 3 albums. And yeah, those are just...
bangers.
Yeah, kind of like what my entire childhood is comprised of.
Did you watch those like video game? I got into them with like the video game movies on YouTube, like the AMVs.
I didn't. And you know what's funny is friends that I've made across, obviously Linkin Park is massive, so there's so many different sources. But the anime videos, many have mentioned the anime music videos. Breaking the Habit specifically has made it into and that's my favorite Linkin Park song. So anyway,
really cool.
I've made some friends off of, I think there was a Death Note, specifically a Death Note Breaking the Habit from probably 15 years ago on YouTube. I
made a few of those.
I love that.
Yeah, me and my friend Andrew, who Aubrey actually knows as well, we made a few. Let me see if I can, I'll look for them real quick, but there's a good chance I might not find them. But yeah, we used to sit and try to I think we did, obviously in the end, like that was a classic. Oh yeah, here we go. Here they are. This was his channel. I know y'all can't see it, but we made Halo 3 music videos. I might post a screenshot or something. There's Breaking the Habit. I know we're kind of on a totally crazy detour. Yeah, so here is Fighters. Can't find it. There's no Linkin Park ones. Okay, here's Numb. We did one for Anakin Skywalker with Numb.
17 years ago.
17 years ago. I would have been 7th, 8th grade. We actually made these by putting an old VHS tape in one of those TVs that had a VHS player attached to it, and we'd play the video game and then get to the cutscene that we wanted and record over the videotape.
That's awesome.
We had to spend hours doing it to get the footage.
The things we did before smartphones, dude.
Before computers.
the way we entertained ourselves.
Here we go. So I think Andrew remade them pretty much exactly the same, but we had like this one, Revolution. Where is the best one? Was In the End, but I don't know if it's here. But anyway, so yeah.
Oh yeah, Breaking the Habit.
Oh yeah, there's Breaking the Habit. So that was how I found Linkin Park, was watching those like random Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy videos using the CGI from those games.
Right.
And I just thought it was the coolest shit ever. So I was like all about it. And then I just started listening to Linkin Park. My parents didn't listen to rock or metal growing up.
Really?
So Linkin Park was the first like rock, like heavy rock band that I listened to.
Okay.
So it was like the opposite for me. Like that got me into the other, like Black Sabbath and Metallica and all of that.
See, my dad was probably a little bit more disappointed with the current day's rock era, so we liked 90s Nickelback, and then Photograph came out, and we were done, right?
Oh, see, I loved Photograph. My mom listened to Nickelback.
There's, Animal is awesome on
Animal's
that album.
Great.
But Photograph and whatever the other slow one, if
Everyone Cared?
If Everyone Cared is terrible, and then
I think that's
The Way You Remind Me or whatever.
I think that was our most popular
all the
video.
radio songs. I can't. They're heavy stuff. Never Again by Nickelback Best song. It's so good.
Oh, hold on. Never mind. Sorry. We did If Everyone Cared. And I think it actually. So our biggest video was Until the End by Breaking Benjamin, and we got 115,000 views on that.
Wow.
Yeah, like we didn't look at the views just now, but we actually got some crazy views on some of these. Our If Everyone Cared Master Chief video got 6.6 thousand.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Especially for back in the day.
Yeah. Anyway, though, I loved that. I loved If Everyone Cared, but I understand why people don't.
If the radio didn't ever play it, I would have no problems.
Yeah.
If I never heard it on the radio. But every time you went into the airport or
It was
J.C. Penney's, yeah, like that's what you were. That I'm like, there's so much better Linkin Park in the world. So there was also probably some bitterness there
Yeah.
that that's what we're listening to.
well, and that's funny because like I think around the time I was listening to like POD,
Yes.
Nickelback, Breaking Benjamin, I hadn't really gotten into like heavy music yet.
Okay.
So those things were like revolutionary to me. And then I found Linkin Park, and that was like the only one of those bands that really stuck like big time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was obsessed with Linkin Park, and then and then I went down. I started playing guitar, and that kind of changed everything. And then I found Avenged Sevenfold, and it was game over.
Yeah.
So
The rest
Yeah.
is history.
cool. Well, so this song, real quick before we're gonna break it down, but what are your like initial thoughts? I like to talk about that.
Okay, so I kind of want to talk a little bit about Emptiness Machine because that was the intro.
Yeah.
Initial vibes were okay, let's see what's going on here. We got a new singer. It's a girl. I'm intrigued. She looked a little nervous the first concert. Emptiness Machine comes out. I'm liking it. It's not hitting. This song came out. Dude, the shit fucking hits. It's like hits me to my core. I really dug through the first two albums today to try to find what heartstring it's like, what song is it reminding me of, like what's the vibe that it's trying to match, and I can't place it. I could probably spend a little bit more time, but I really feel like it's a little bit of a mix. There's so much hybrid theory, but also like there's a little bit of the Meteor thrown in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a banger. I love the whole vibe. It's exactly what I wanted, and I want more. I'm intrigued. I can't wait for the new album to come out, and that's exactly what that song needed to do.
Definitely. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. When Aubrey and I did the breakdown for the Emptiness Machine, or the conversation about the Emptiness Machine, we said as well, like, that was a great song to like intro Emily Armstrong. Like, it's because it's obviously going to be a very jarring change. It's not something that, a lot of people are not going to take it well. And a lot of people are going to be very unsure about it and how it like what does this mean? And it's very uncomfortable because I think Chester meant so much to so many people. But that was a great song to like really kind of bring her in, like ease people into it. And then this song is like,
this is what you asked for.
Yeah. Like I had to say, I mentioned this on the Emptiness Machine, where it's like you can write a song and it's just a great song, but the song can also be a marketing tool on its own. And so as far as that goes, Linkin Park are knocking it out of the park, no pun intended, with their songs actually being like marketing tools for the new band, essentially.
The dominoes are falling and I'm fucking here for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's really cool. And so but with all that said, you could say, oh, well, it's all just marketing, yada yada, this is what you came for, heavy is the crowd. Like, they're just marketing her, but the truth is that it's actually
in a good way.
Well, it's a good song.
Yeah,
the song
successfully.
itself, like the song itself is actually really good. So they're nailing this album rollout as far as I'm concerned.
And I feel like you can feel the passion behind it. This isn't sellout Transformers shit. This is, and I've watched many interviews, but they say like we all just sat around and we're just like, let's just hang out, let's just play music. And then one day it was like, oh shit, is this happening? This is fucking happening, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the music that they're not forcing. Oh, it's time now. We need to go. We're gonna make millions. Like, no, they're like, we don't know. We have no idea what's gonna happen. But here's what we got to offer, and I'm on board.
No, this song and Emptiness Machine are super tight. A lot of details and layers that I love. You can tell that they really put work into them. And I agree with you. I don't think it doesn't quite sound like old Linkin Park. Like Hybrid Theory Meteora, but it does feel like
Nostalgic.
I commented on Mike Schnow's rapping, and this is just one of the comments I made, where he's rapping like a beast and he sounds old school, but it doesn't sound like an old guy trying to recapture his glory days. He actually sounds like he's at the top of his game.
Sounds like Eminem,
Right, yeah.
similar.
No, exactly. Like it doesn't sound like they're trying to be the old Linkin Park. It just sounds like they're kind of doing what they're good at and what they like to do, which is what they started off doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Cool. Well, then, what do you say we jump in? So, just so you guys know, we've got a little bit of a different setup. We're actually playing it through the speakers, so we're going to mute ourselves whenever we play the song, but you guys should still be able to hear it perfectly. So, let's get started with this, with this little sample they've got going at the beginning. Speakers weren't plugged. All right, hold on. Technical difficulties. There we go. All right, so let's just start there. So I really like that sample, and I'm gonna explain why. Because it is like a regal string sample. It sounds like something from like medieval or Victorian times, but they've sampled it as part of the song, which for those of you who don't know what sampling is, it's just where you take a piece of another song and you kind of chop it up into a little snippet and you use it in your song as a kind of background composition. Like rappers do it all the time. Kanye West is super famous for it. You can tune it, you can change the pitch and bring it up or down and alter it, but by using it as a sample, it fits in with Linkin Park's kind of underground vibe, because it is something that like underground musicians do, is take pieces from other music. And because you got to think about like when you're broke and you don't have money to record in a studio or even to afford instruments and recording software, what are you going to do to make music? You're going to pull from other artists, chop it up, and then figure out something new to do with it there. So it inherently is like this underground technique of making music. But yeah, with the regal strings, we immediately set up the royal crown metaphors that we're gonna have throughout the song. Very cool stuff. Here, let's play that again. So yeah, then we bust into the guitars. We got that little build up.
Classic.
Yeah, of course. And then we come in with the guitars. And so we've got, I believe we have an octave guitar in the middle. Do you know about octaves? Do you know what they are? So octaves are essentially like octaves are the same note, just different, like
levels.
Higher or lower.
Right. Okay.
So like you have your notes like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats at A.
Right.
Do you know why that happens? So what it is it's actually the length of the sound frequency.
Yeah.
So
okay.
an A note, like imagine an A note being like 3, let's just say like 3 or 4 inches wide. If you go up an octave, the A note is exactly 2 inches wide.
Okay.
So a perfect octave of A, you can fit 2 of those frequencies into the one frequency of the lower A.
Okay.
And so on. And so that's why, when you get up too far in octaves, the frequencies become so close together that you can't hear it. And that's where it falls off of the listenable frequency range for the human ear. And same with low frequencies. Like, the lower ones are so big that our ears don't pick up on the frequency. So that's what octaves are. Octaves on guitar have this really cool sound because you're only playing one note. Like if you're playing octaves, you're playing an A, but you can still create a chord, which having 2 strings ringing out at the same time through a distorted amp, even if it's perfect octaves of each other, creates a distorted effect. The reason why this can be advantageous is because a full chord can have like a major or a minor sound, and that can really sound distorted in a going through a heavy amp. So you can basically have like layers of guitars that play different notes and like go on top of each other without it just completely like distorting. So that's why, like, if you listen to this guitar line, it sounds both like clear and crisp, but also heavy and like in your face. To take a listen to it real quick. He's playing two notes there. He's playing na 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 na, and that's what you really hear. But the octave underneath it is do 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 do. And so those two notes kind of combined create that, like, it's very full sounding like a chord, but it's only one note, so it doesn't like, it's not getting into like weird major or minor key stuff. You can have a melody behind it. Is that all making kind of sense?
Yes.
So the interesting thing about this from a structural standpoint is that this is actually the music for the chorus as well. So this is exactly what's going on in the chorus, except for that little synth that they start to add halfway through, which I don't think comes back until the end of the song. It's that like da-na-na. So yeah, that doesn't come back until the end of the song, but it's a nice like again, when you're talking about like keeping the song fresh and interesting and keeping it moving, like we're only 20 seconds into the song, but we've already had like the cool sample, the build up, the octaves and the drums come in, and then we have this synth layer come in as well. And so we've had all these different pieces come together already. They didn't need to add that synth there.
The intro is iconic.
Yeah. The intro is very like, it's very quick. It sets up the chorus and what you're going to hear in it, but it also brings that synth in, which is really nice. It sounds, it's not dark. It is a little dark. It's minor key for sure, but it's not like so dark or so heavy that it kind of like throws you off for a little bit.
A smile immediately appears. It takes 2 seconds for my brain to recognize the song, and I start smiling, and then I'm like, I love this song.
Yeah, definitely.
Every single time.
No, it's great. And I think, you know, to your point, that little Regal sample as well is very unique sounding. Like I don't think I've ever heard a sample quite like that.
And I feel like maybe personally, I think a downside of many rock bands, especially, obviously this is made today, but going back in the early 2000s, you would kind of have to listen to the song for a little bit before you could remember what song it was. It was like, they all could just kind of like, were this is not one of those songs. This is, again, like I said, you know immediately exactly what, and we like things that stand out.
Yeah, and so you can have these moments in your song and like these parts of your song that are very unique sounding. To your point, I think a lot of songs like with rock bands in the 2000s, they just sort of went for a generic like heavy guitar riff, and after a while it becomes tough to tell like, well, wait, which guitar riff is that versus this one, especially if you're not a guitarist, you know. Like, so it's just having something unique like that little synth in the back or that little sample, you know, it distinguishes your song.
And a really quick note that I want to make is I think Aubrey spoke on this previously, but he's more of a vibe guy instead of and I'm the same way. I don't pay attention to what the lyrics are saying. And I recognize that I'm probably missing out on a lot of creativity there, but that's just not my vibe. It's just not. I'm listening to the mood, and what I like about lyrics is it allows me to participate in the song. But unfortunately, that doesn't mean that I necessarily like listen or pay attention to what those words are saying.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like being able to tell immediately what song it is without having to wait for the lyrics to come in and then start singing the lyrics. And then you're like 3 Days Grace is specifically that was another in this age, another one of the bands that I really, really liked. But one of the greatest differences is that I have to wait for 3 Days Grace to start singing before I can really, there's some iconic songs, but I would say more than not, they need to start singing before I know what song it is.
I think 3 Days Grace, like, this might be a crazy controversial statement, but I actually think that 3 Days Grace came nowhere close to Linkin Park.
I agree. I liked them a lot.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about talent or I agree
Like
with you.
song, the
And
actual.
especially the shows, I'm sorry, the physical shows too. I've
Mhm.
seen them both live. There is just absolutely no competition.
Yeah, I think like the songwriting quality is very different. And you listen to a song like In the End, which there's so many components to just that one song, the piano, the rapping, the heavy guitars, Chester singing, the way that everything's layered, the hip hop sounds and the samples and all of it. Like there's all these components that are in there that I don't think Lincoln or 3 Days Grace ever came close to. And again, I think that they're one of the culprits of like,
Yes, the more generic.
here's just a heavy riff and then we start singing, and
The
that's tough.
lyrics are the focal point almost.
Yeah.
And as a 12-year-old, sure, I enjoy, and I still belt out their lyrics. I still like their songs,
Yeah.
but that's not what I'm looking for in today's music. This is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and actually on the topic of like vibes with vocals, I think that Linkin Park is one of the best bands that does this, where it's like the the lyrics. He does a Mike Shinoda. He's honestly one of the most interesting rappers I've ever heard. I don't think anyone raps like him or sounds like him. It's kind of crazy, but I feel like nobody talks about him as a rapper.
He got me into rap.
Yeah, same. He was the first rapper that I was ever like, oh, this is great. And I think with his lyrics, he's always done a good job of, you know, he doesn't rap about like cultural things. He's kind of like the opposite of an Eminem, right? Like Mike Shinoda would never talk about a celebrity or money or anything like that. It's always very much like on theme,
Deep
on
thoughts,
yeah, it very like
lots
but
of emotion.
right, but not even in the way that a lot of rappers will do it, where they talk about like how their difficult lives, or it's a very like they're almost like these storytellers. Mike Shinoda to me is, to use y'all's word, the vibe rapper. Like he, even the lyrics here, which we're about to get into it, but it's, he says, it's pouring in, you're laid on the floor again, one knock at the door, and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. It's like, okay, those are super cool lyrics. And like, I'm not dogging them when I say this, but they're not necessarily like,
Super lyrical.
yeah, like they're not describing,
Yeah.
like they do have imagery and there is something taking place, but I'm not listening to that trying to figure out like, oh, where's the story going? You know what I mean?
He's setting a scene in a different way.
Right. And so he's like a vibe rapper. And vibes are like a big topic with Aubrey and I as well. It's I think that vibe music is great. I don't have a problem with it. I just think I was thinking about this after our last discussion, and I think that we've almost gotten a little too much into like, oh, that's all music can be is just vibes. And I don't think,
I wouldn't agree with that.
well, I wouldn't agree with that either, but I think that it's very rare today that we get songs that are not made to be like a vibe. Like I would think about something like Guilty Conscience 2 off of Eminem's new album. Did you listen to that yet?
I wouldn't know it by name, but if you played it, I would know it.
Maybe something like Stan, Stan. Like to me, that's not a vibe song, but it's a very well made song, and it's a story, and there's meaning and depth to it.
Yeah.
But that's a whole separate conversation. Regardless, I think Linkin Park is definitely like a vibe band, but in the best way. It's very well made music, very solid compositions. The lyrics are, what?
I just had a thought. Maybe, okay, so I mentioned that it's ringing a similar tune, but I couldn't figure it out.
Mhm.
I need to go back and listen before I make this statement, but I wonder if it's Fort Minor. I wonder if that's the ring of
Fort Minor.
Fort Minor is Mike Shinoda's side project
Oh,
that he made during Linkin Park. Remember the name. 50% reason to remember, or 100% reason to remember the name. The 20% skill, 15%
that's Mike Shinoda?
Yeah, that's
No
Fort Minor. Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Fort Minor is Mike Shinoda?
Maybe my whole life is a lie, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, look, Mike Shinoda.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, go listen to this whole album. It's so good.
I know the song you're talking about. I just didn't know that it was Mike Shinoda. That's crazy. Wild. Okay. To me, okay, to your point though, to me this song reminds me of Faint. This song structurally is a lot like Faint.
I can see
You
it.
start off with a synth, then
Yeah.
you come in with the chorus music, go into a verse with
You
the
get the scream.
sample, you get the heavy, like it always is kind of building up and building up, and then you have the heavy part in the interlude. This song was very reminiscent of Faint.
Yeah, and Fort Minor doesn't do any rock any. That was just an idea.
Yeah.
As I think more, probably not. But maybe it's him. Like maybe he's the vibe. I need now
Well,
that I've had that thought, I need to go listen back and see if I can find it. But
well, I also just think like it's funny that we say like, oh, this song kind of brings back that old vibe, but it's like I feel like Mike Shinoda is rapping in a very specific way on this song that is very much like the old way that he used to rap, but he's not like repeating the raps, you know? It's kind of like Eminem on Houdini, right? Like where it's reminding you of like, oh yeah, I remember, old school Eminem, but he's not necessarily trying to go back to old school Eminem. It's still new Eminem.
right.
So it's maybe a little bit of that, like the merging of like nostalgia, but also that's just their style and that's just what they do. Maybe a little bit of that. Which
Yeah, and there's something anthem about it almost,
this
which I
song,
yeah, which I know I said that and then realized that y'all have had a topic on that. Just like not talking
there
about.
is something anthem about this song though. There's a very big like. I think that this song is kind of a larger than life song. Like that the crown imagery, the royal aspect of it. Like this song was meant to be a more like epic Linkin Park
I could
song.
almost see it being like an encore song, like finishing the show off with it. Like it has such a heavy.
I don't. Yes,
We need to wait for the rest of the album to come out to tell for sure, of course. But
I don't know if they would play this for the encore just because they've got like in the end and numb and like
okay, but if we were talking about
if it was the if it was the
okay,
if this was
if
the
it wasn't
only
Linkin Park, I understand what you're saying.
yeah, if this was the only album they came out with, yeah, totally, this would be like the big epic closer.
Yeah,
um
that's fair.
good
You make a good point.
good luck to Emily Armstrong trying to do this at the end of the set though. I know.
Also true.
Yeah, I've
That deep breath she takes, we'll get to it, but
like in my bands we'll sometimes have to structure the songs to get the ones that have like giant screams and stuff out of the way towards
yeah,
the beginning,
yeah.
because it's tough to sit up there and sing for hours, and Linkin Park plays long shows too, 3 hours, something like that. Crazy. No wonder she was that. I mean, that's why she was nervous. It's actually good that she was nervous.
She was walking into the biggest shoes
Oh yeah.
of the year.
Yeah.
So like no wonder she was nervous, but and I do believe you mentioned this previously, but when Mike went up there and introed the concert, he said the role of Chester is you, the crowd, the fans. And in the moment I was like, "Oh, that's sweet." And I got the goosebumps and I teared up a little.
Yeah.
But since then, I've really understood that he's again, I might just be repeating a point that Jill have already made, but Emily's not here to replace Chester. She's here, like we're creating something new and we're continuing the legacy almost. But
Yeah.
like when you're still gonna sing your heart out, just like when Chester was here and we play Numb, sing your heart out just as much as you would have, and that's when we feel that Chester's here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't specifically have anything to do with Emily. She's just a part of this band and we're all doing it together.
Yeah, I think I've heard this conversation, or I've seen it happening a lot of like, is she replacing Chet? Like, here's the maybe this is just like my accountant brain on it. Like, the reality is that Chester is no longer with us, like in a literal sense. Linkin Park, everyone else in the band who still wants to play and make music, they're still there. There is still a fan base for them, and I think that we still have. I mean, how old is Mike Shinoda at this point?
He's got to be 40.
Yeah, he's got to at least be
47.
47. So it's like they've still got plenty of energy left in them. I think that for the rest of the guys in the band, I think it would be a shame to just end everything forever.
Well, sorry.
Well, it's just kind of like, again, in the most literal sense, it's like there is a new singer. And they still want to play music. It's not like their desire to play music goes away.
Right.
So I think that you can have a new member come in. I think Avenged Sevenfold is a great example of this, where they, the Rev passed away as well. And and he wasn't like, he was the drummer, but he was not like this background member. He was a lead songwriter. He's a core part of that band. And there's this element of like, oh, like in my mind as an Avenged Sevenfold fan, it's like, well, I don't want the rest of those guys that I grew up listening to and that I fell in love with, their art. I don't want them to just stop. Like, That's not,
I agree.
I don't want that. And if you, in my mind, I'm like, if you care about the band and you care about those guys, you can, you can understand the situation that they're put in. And it's like, you lost a main member. Like, that's tough, especially a singer.
But why do we have to lose everything?
Exactly. And so it's like, okay, I don't think there's been any disrespect on their part
No,
towards
I agree.
Chester. And I think if anyone can make the decision on like what's going to happen with the future of the band, to me, that should be the band. And I hear a lot of people saying, well, they should just stop, or they should do this, or they should do that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's their band.
Right.
And they loved Chester. They knew Chester. Like, Chester was their childhood friend. So it's like, I don't know. To me, it's a very, I don't, I understand it, but I guess I personally don't agree with the takes that say like, oh, they shouldn't move forward, or they shouldn't have anyone, they should just end it. It's like, I don't agree.
The reason I brought it up was because of mostly because of the argument that like they should have at least changed the name. And it's like,
No.
no, they're not a new band. Like, you can hear from these two songs, and I think that's what they're showing. I'm excited for the new one to come out to continue to show. But it's the same band. It's the same, like everything you just said. It's the same
still
friends getting together, making music, and they found two additional souls that match the same harmony that they have together, and we should appreciate that and love that. And if you don't want to listen to it, all the old stuff is totally still available for you and your lovely ears, to enjoy
Right.
in your room, and you can pretend like nothing ever happened, and that doesn't hurt anybody either.
I mean, it's just, it's always kind of an interesting take where it's like, and I get it. I get why people would say, well, just change the band, or just, it's not the same. Chester was the band, and all this. And I get it. And I want to, I do want to be, I guess, empathetic towards those views to a degree. But in my mind, I just disagree. I think that they're the ones who created the band. It's their band. It was Chester's band too. And Chester will always be a part of the band. Like, he will always be the singer for Linkin Park. But I think they've got every right to continue forward as Linkin Park and to keep doing their thing.
And I think they're keeping him alive
Oh,
by
yeah.
continuing on in the same fashion. When Emily sings, we think of Chester. We think of her and appreciate her too. But when she's singing those old songs, like, they weren't out touring, we wouldn't have that experience anymore.
Right. So, yeah. We just went down a little tangent there. Okay, cool. We are 20 seconds in. Welcome to Simple Songwriting, everybody. Okay, so let's, since we've talked so much about Mike, let's get into his verse, actually, because honestly, he kicks ass on this verse. Let's check it out.
It's pouring in, you're laid on the floor again. One knock at the door and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Aiming so high, but...
Okay, so let's pause it right there. So yeah, I mean, he's just firing off. When I was listening to this song, I thought the Regal sample was really cool. I thought the instrumental intro with the drums and the guitars, it's like, as a guitarist, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're doing octaves, they're doing their thing. It's pretty, like, to me, that's kind of normal Linkin Park stuff. When Mike came in, that's when I was like, oh, we are so back.
Yes.
Like, we are so back.
Yes.
Like, and especially because, I mean, he is kicking ass on this verse. Like, it's just firing off lyrics. Like, it is great. So yeah, from a like analytical point of view, we've got the sample still playing underneath them, like normal. We've got the drums. I actually want to comment real quick on the drums. The drums are very, very dry. So do you know what that means? Like, dry drums.
I don't.
So when you talk about like wet or dry in audio mixing, that's how much reverb or delay or depth it has. So you imagine like a vocal, like, think about like the 80s, right? When they'd hit the, like, what's that song? Pour Some Sugar on Me, when they like hit the snare and it's like, pow, doo, pow. That's the opposite of a dry drum. That has got a lot of reverb, a lot of depth. It sounds like it's being hit in a stadium and it's ringing out, and that's the vibe. Hip hop drums are typically very dry, which means that they It's very
That
quick.
kinda
Yeah, very.
snare
And it's meant to be a little more in your face. Like it's meant to kind of be close to you and like in your face. But usually you would do that with like drum samples because it's much easier to control like everything about the way a drum sample sounds. But for them to do it with actual mixed drums or like a drum kit here, which is what they're doing, that's a real drummer playing. It's really cool. It's really cool to do that, and not a lot of bands do that. So here, take a listen to it and listen to the drums, and just listen to how like blank they are, like pop pop pop, like no,
Blunt.
yeah, blunt. That's the word.
Again, one knock at the door and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Aiming so high but springing so low, trying to catch fire but feeling so cold, holding inside and hoping.
Yeah, Savannah was just saying it sounds like a Mardi Gras drum or something. And
The like a marching band. The marching bands that march in the Mardi Gras, Mardi Gras parades, they play their hearts out. They wait all year for those, but that's,
Yeah.
he's smacking the shit out of those things.
yeah, no, and so it's really cool. Like one thing that's really cool about mixing, like when you're mixing, is to have these different, like to have one instrument have no reverb and then have like another instrument, or like the vocals have lots of reverb, or like the drums have, like how you don't want everything to be dry or everything to be reverby and wet, like
Sure.
you, because then what happens is they all start to like there's not dynamics there. You want like a big heavy like for example, in most like 2000s rock songs, which is what we were talking about, you've got like kind of, a little bit of reverb on the drums, very, very dry guitars, which is why they sound so in your face. And then you'll have like a lot of reverb on the vocals to make the vocals sound really big. Like thinking about like Creed, like, can you take me higher?
Yeah.
Like the reason why that song sounds so huge is because of his vocals and the way that they sound. The drums might have a little bit of reverb, but like everything else, super dry, because then that actually makes the reverb in his vocals stand out. So if you think about it, think about the frequencies ringing out. If all of the frequencies are ringing out and meshing together, you don't hear the reverb of the vocal.
It kind of complements it.
Exactly. So like think about if I played like a guitar part that's like da 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 da, something like that. If I had a lot of reverb on that, it'd be like da 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 da, and it'd ring out. And then if I had like a vocal take that was like la di da di da or something, if I had a lot of reverb on that vocal take and the guitar just went like da 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 da, you wouldn't hear the reverb from the vocals because it'd just be meshing with the guitar. Everything would be reverbing.
Right.
So having like picking which instruments have reverb, which ones don't, and how like if it's going to have reverb, how much of it is it going to have? In this case, there's a tiny bit of reverb on these drums, but not a lot. And that's really cool because you got this like kind of, I feel like this sample actually has like built-in reverb to it. Like this sample already sounds like it's being played in a concert hall
Yeah.
or something. Like check it out. Like it doesn't sound really in your face. It sounds like it was something that was recorded in a big hallway.
It sounds like an orchestra is playing in a theater.
Exactly. So you've got dry drums, this sample that's got built-in reverb to it, but it's still a sample, and it's a pretty like spliced up kind of dry sample. Like you can hear it in the intro where it doesn't really sound full, like it sounds like it's going through a filter or something. And it keeps that sound throughout the verse. Then you got Mike rapping, and his raps are pretty dry. Not super, super dry, but they're pretty dry. But he does have lots of like layers, which we'll talk about in a second, and I'll show. But then the interesting thing is, so we've got like dry, a little bit of reverb, but it's just a sample. His vocals kind of dry. But then you have this piano in the verse that has a shit ton of reverb that really gives it a lot of space. So listen for that piano this time, because that's kind of what I was getting to, because the piano is what like makes it sound epic to a degree.
It's pouring in, you're laid on the floor again. One One knock at the door and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Aiming so high but springing so low, trying to catch fire but feeling so cold. Hold it inside and hope it won't show. I'm saying it's not, but inside I know.
So it's actually not as reverby as I thought, but you can hear it coming in with the bass actually. So that's another thing too. Like when we talk about like dry with mixing, you can equalize out or like filter out the bass frequencies. So then when the bass actually plays there, it has more impact. Maybe I'm going all over the place. We're getting real nitty gritty here. But essentially, the big point I wanted to make is that they have lots of different instruments mixed different ways that are complementing each other really well, specifically the drums. I really like the drums. So let's go back a little bit. Let's listen again. Let's see what else is going on. Maybe I should pull up my notes too.
It's pouring in, you're laid on the floor again. One knock at the door and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins.
So let's talk about Mike real quick, because I want to talk about like the layers that he's got going on. It might be hard to hear on these speakers. It's probably easier to hear on headphones. So listen to it on the headphones. But what he's done, and I mentioned this on the Eminem song as well, where he's done multiple takes and layered them over each other. Like, and when I say like he's recorded the exact same thing multiple times and then picked certain words to have like, so let's back up. When you're trying to do your rap verse, you're going to have at least one take that's like your core take. That's the perfect take. You probably will splice in words and edit everything so that one take is perfect. Then you'll do multiple takes under it and then select certain words or phrases where you add in those like two or three more takes. Yeah. And so listen to when his vocals kind of like, they sound like otherworldly and layered. That's what I'm talking about. Mike's really good at this. And I complimented Eminem on it on Fuel, but Mike's another one of those rappers that does this really, really well. And it just sounds great. Listen closely for that.
It's pouring in, you're laid on the floor again. One knock at the door and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Aiming so high but springing so low, trying to catch fire but feeling so cold. Hold it inside.
It's usually on the accent notes, like the ends, for, begins, all of that. And so yeah, it just emphasizes those words and makes them sound a little more like smoother. It fits better.
And I feel like maybe when you quite haven't learned all the lyrics, those are the words that you tend to pick up first.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, actually that's a really good point, because yeah, that's when you start to like it can help you pick up on like the story ends, door, and then, you know, white flag out when the war begins, you know.
Yeah.
When you're just singing in your car or whatever. Anyway, that's just a big compliment to Mike. It's tough to do that. It's really not, because you have to think about like, it's hard enough to just rap, like, period, then to actually, you know, put the lyrics together, get everything sound, you know, all the words right and the rhymes right, and then to actually deliver the performance well, and then to do it like 3 more times and layer all of that. That's tough. It's really, really hard to do that. So shout out to Mike Shinoda. He like I said earlier, my note was he's rapping like a beast. It's very old school Mike, but he actually sounds like he's at the top of his game.
And I don't mean to steal your later note here, but the beat behind it and the words, like what you're talking about here, really strike the bleed it out.
Oh yeah,
just when you're amped up and you're like ready to go, like there's just it's a high vibe song, and you know, I think I get this similar emotions. No, it's a good throwback.
This is all really cool. I really like this verse. I thought the Emptiness Machine, like the verses were cool. It was fine. But this verse to me is exceptional. Like this is really, really cool. And then the last thing that I wanted to note on this verse is that there's this really cool pause that they do in the middle of it. Listen to the drums and how everything like stops for a second, and a piano note plays there right at the same time as well. Listen, I think it happens around when he says, you can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. So listen to that.
Yeah.
We both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Aiming so high but springing so low.
That right there. So you actually hear the bass do a slide as well. Did you hear that? I'll point it out next time. So everything stops and then the drums come back in. There's a piano chord and a bass slide that happens. So the bass slide going like boo, and it just
Okay, I did hear it. I wasn't able to recognize it, but I did hear it.
exactly. So there's just these elements that like let me put it this way, they didn't have to do that. They could have just kept going and it would have been fine. But this is good songwriting. This is giving a shit. Like this is actually like, oh guys, it'd be really cool if we had like this really smooth pause there. Like these are artists who actually care.
Paying attention to the details.
Exactly. Like let's keep it interesting, you know? And so like this is cool. Like you can't like this is what I like to hear. This is what I like from Linkin Park as well. I think I commented on like one of the things I like from Linkin Park is the way that they can turn like a 2.5 minute song. Like they can make it just feel full and dense and like holy shit, like just so much packed in. And like that's what they're doing here. Let's listen again. Listen for that bass slide and the piano note that rings out.
Know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Aiming so high, but swinging so low, trying to catch fire.
So Savannah was saying she mostly hears the piano. The bass slide goes, it's actually a slide up and then down. I just heard it more clearly there. So it's like, woo. Listen very closely here. I think it's going to play right when I press play.
So high, but swinging so low.
Okay.
It was a little too...
But
yeah, it played exactly when I pressed play. Let's try it one more time.
Flags out when the war begins. Aiming so high, but swinging so low, trying to catch fire, but feeling so cold.
I might still be listening to the piano, man.
I think I'm actually hearing it over on the right.
Okay,
so,
that might be coming out of that speaker.
yeah, listen on this speaker a little bit. And it's listen really, it's literally going like woo. So like listen for those frequencies there. Let's try one more time.
When the war begins, aiming so high, but swinging so low, trying to catch fire, but feeling so cold. Hold it inside out when the war begins, aiming so high, but swinging so low, trying to catch fire.
If I was wearing headphones, I'm sure that I
Probably.
could decently.
You know, it's funny. Like I always had trouble with bass stuff as
I
well.
listen to my music at least 2, if not 3 times louder than that typically as well.
Yeah.
And headphones are just in my car. That's usually why.
Yeah.
That's more to casual volume, which is fine.
No, it's funny. Like bass stuff is always like, I didn't understand bass when I first started playing guitar, and it pissed people off that I met because I could like shred, but I didn't understand, like I couldn't hear bass guitars and stuff. So when I finally learned, like trained my ear to listen to all the different elements of a song and like pick them out specifically whenever I wanted,
Yeah.
it was like a whole new world.
I definitely need practice. But that's why I like your show, because you point out stuff like that, and I don't even really think about it most of the time. So how am I supposed to practice when I don't even know it's there? So
Exactly.
It's
Blast this in your car and then pay attention to the bass, those super low frequencies. Cool. So yeah, we keep going with this verse. Let's play out to the end of the verse.
Feeling so cold, hold it inside and hope it won't show. I'm saying it's not, but inside I know.
So yeah, I know we don't vibe on this show. We stop right before the
I'm over here dancing.
So yeah, we close out pretty good. I think after that bass slide, the bass actually keeps playing throughout that verse, which is cool, along with the piano, which again, that's a cool little frequency thing. I think I actually talked about this on the Truth Breakdown. But that's a cool like thing that you can do is have the low end and the high end of the frequency range, like a really high synth or something, play at the same time, because it leaves the whole middle. Because most like singing and like guitars and melodic instruments like piano, they're in the mid range of frequencies. Same with like drums, right? But you can get your bass and your kick drum and stuff, and then you can have like your high pitched synths or pianos, like high piano.
Where would vocals fall?
Vocals are in the mid range between like 7. Like the main vocal range, depending on what octave you're singing in, it's usually about like 700 to 2000 hertz, which is mid range.
Okay.
That's like mid high range. Then like guitars are like frequency cannons. That's the way it was described to me, which is pretty apt, which means that an electric guitar is actually basically hitting every single frequency. So you have to literally, when you're mixing electric guitars, you have to kind of figure out which range your singer is going to be singing in, and then like lower the frequencies of the guitars in that range so that when the singer sings, you can actually hear the singer over the guitar.
Okay.
So then on the low end, like between 0 and let's just say like 150 hertz, that's where you have like your kick, your bass, and like the low end of the guitar. And then like your super high pitched stuff will be around like 5,000 to 10,000 hertz. And then like anything above 10,000, that's like super high. You know, that's like your hi-hat, like that sound. You got to be careful around that range. And then around 20,000 hertz, the human ear can't hear it anymore. So anyway, if you again think about like the guitars mainly being between, let's just ballpark like 200 hertz and 5,000 hertz, something like that.
Okay.
Having something that plays in like the super low, like the 300, 400, like the bass, and then having like a really high pitched sound as well, like a synth. You know, at the same time, you get like this boo. So it's both like boo and ding, and so it's kind of both. And so it's actually, it can be a pretty impactful hit depending on what you're doing, but it leaves plenty of room open for all the other instruments to still keep playing.
Okay.
I think a good example of this, actually, real quick, this is actually kind of cool to talk about. A good example of this is the beginning of this song when everything comes in, because notice how you can hear everything very clearly. You can hear the sample, you can hear the guitars, you can hear the drums, and then even when that synth comes in, like when the synth comes in the second half of this, listen to the sample and notice how you can still listen to the sample even though the synth, the guitars, and the drums are all playing.
Okay.
Check it out. So you hear how you can very clearly hear that sample?
Yeah.
That's because they probably figure out exactly where that sample sits on the frequency range and carved that frequency spectrum out of the guitars and the synths and just mixed all of those things very well together so that they're not clashing with each other. That's a good mix. It's a good mix.
Beautiful.
It's a really, really great mix. And that's something I commented on the Emptiness Machine. They've been mixing these songs amazingly. So everything sounds great. But yeah, so let's get into this pre-chorus, because this pre-chorus is pretty cool too. It's short. Sorry, let's back it up a little bit.
Hope it won't show, I'm saying it's not, but inside I know today's gonna be the day you notice, 'cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you want.
We stop it right before it gets good. So pre-chorus, we've got, I think, obviously it's a soft pre-chorus. We're bringing the energy down so that we can bring it right back up.
And we're introing Emily.
Bringing Emily in. So I think the thing that I really like about this pre-chorus is in the background, there's like a knocking sound. Have you heard that?
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. It's like a percussive drum, like da, 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 da. I just think that's really cool. It was a really interesting choice, and it keeps it from being too soft.
I feel like it's a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yes. Yeah, like it really keeps it going, and like, but then you also have those really pleasant sounding piano chords.
It's just doing a good job of building the suspense.
Exactly. And then Emily comes in before the downbeat, so she actually starts, singing before the chorus music actually starts, which is a really cool technique because it means that you can hit you can actually build up to your heaviest note and then sing your heaviest note on the downbeat right when all the music comes in. So this is what you asked for. And so you can sing up, and then asked for happens right when the music comes in. Check it out.
It's gonna be the day you notice, 'cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you asked for, heavy is the crowd.
So that's why that chorus impacts so heavy, because when everything comes in, it's at the peak of her melody. And so she builds into it. This is what you asked for. And that works really well. Like, it's really cool. You can kind of be part of that energy with her.
I'm running into battle. I'm ready to go.
Let's go. Yeah. I do think if I were to give a critique, I do think that this line from Mike Shinoda, because I'm tired of explaining what the joke is.
I don't get it.
I think it's a little corny.
What's it about?
Well, so this, again, this is the
Who
funny.
knows?
Well, this is the funny thing about vibe lyrics. It doesn't really, like, it's open to interpretation. This song can be, I think lyrically, I took this song as like being tired of holding back and you want to let loose on those who doubted you. I think the theme of this song is like everyone is expecting you to bring it, or they don't expect you to bring it. And so why not give them what they asked for, essentially? And so that's what I take as the theme. That's what I think of as the theme, is like delivering on what people expect or potentially don't expect from you.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So, but I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. Today's going to be the day you notice makes perfect sense, because I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. I'm not quite following that line. And I don't know. He needs to explain the joke to me.
Yeah, like there's quite a significantly traumatic history here, you know, so which takes precedence when you talk about the past of Linkin Park. That's what I'm thinking of. So when you talk about what's the joke, it's like nothing's really a joke, dude. Like
Yeah.
This is your comeback. Like I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm not quite following the line, but again, this is the pros and cons of like this style of lyrics, like the vibe lyrics, is that like they're cool and they're there, but if you have a line that like messes up the vibe or something,
Okay, here's a shot in the dark. What if he's saying that he's telling people like, no, we're bringing Linkin Park back, and they're going, you're joking, right? And he's like that's like the only like connection I could possibly make, which even is still a stretch. But what the fuck's the joke, man? I want to know. I want to laugh too.
I want to laugh too. Yeah, I see. Then we get into like meta meanings and all that.
Sure. I don't need to. Yeah.
But regardless, it's a funky line. I'm not quite following it, which is kind of ironic considering the line is, I'm tired of explaining. Like,
Because I need you to explain it, my dude.
So,
which I don't think I've ever asked for an explanation on a Linkin Park lyric before, so it's quite the unique happening there.
Yeah, it's like the only line that really is just weird to me. But okay, cool. So real quick note on the pre-chorus, and I want to point this out now, we'll get to it later, is that it's very short and sweet, but they actually did something really cool structurally, where they have this pre-chorus here, but they don't have it going into the second chorus. It's actually, they kind of bring it back after the second chorus as more of a bridge. That's really interesting. I don't know if I could name another song that does that. Most songs, if they, have a pre-chorus, they either just keep using it or they get rid of it entirely and replace it with a new section or something. Like I know a lot of metalcore bands that will have like verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, breakdown, chorus, or something like that. But for them to take the pre-chorus out of the second verse section and then put it after the second chorus as a bridge, first off, it's very economical of them, because it means that they don't waste that section. Like they still have two of that section. It's just being used in a different way, which I like. I mean, that's cool.
They're breaking rules in fun ways.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just an interesting structural choice and definitely unique. I don't know another song that's done that. So, yeah, I just want to point that out now because I think it's cool. And it works. Like, I think that's the other thing. It works really well. And maybe the reason why they would have done it is that they don't want, by the time you get to the second verse and the second chorus, they don't want to slow the momentum down. They want to keep it going and then slow down before the big scream.
I can see
climax.
that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So again, like they're looking at the different puzzle pieces that they've got for the song and like rearranging them to fit the flow. That's smart.
I like it.
That's just good. So let's get into this chorus, because this chorus is solid. Let's back it up just a little bit.
Notice, 'cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you asked for, heavy is the crowd.
All right, I'm gonna pause real quick there. Yeah, so let's look at the lyrics real quick. This is what you asked for, heavy as the crown, fire in the sunrise, ashes raining down. Yeah, so we're having like again
War scene.
war. Like this is war. It definitely makes me think of like medieval vibes, that whole thing. It's cool. I love it when this might sound corny, but I like it when singers actually set the scene. And I think lyrics have the ability to do that. Like you can do that with music for sure, but you can really iron out like the visuals of the song with the lyrics, like specifically. So I like that. You know,
Brings me back to War Pigs.
yes, exactly. Let's keep going. Oh, also last thing. The music is the same as what we heard in the intro. So if you know, listen to that if you want to hear that. But I've mentioned this on like every episode because many songwriters do this. But just putting that music at the beginning kind of gets you familiar with it. So then by the time the chorus comes around, you actually are already. It's your second time hearing that music, and even though there's vocals over it, it still sounds familiar to you, even though you've only heard it once.
You're ready to jam.
Exactly. So it's not like a completely new section. Smart. It's smart songwriting. So one of the things, I'll bring this up during the scream too, but I want to point it out here. They kept her breaths in.
I love her breaths. Not to do this again, but it brings back to Eminem when he is just fucking
Tearing the mic up.
yeah, and you can hear him inhale. That's one of my favorite things that songwriter or just in general people leave in their songs. It
keeps it human.
Yes, exactly.
Keeps
exactly.
it human. It actually like it sounds like she is in the vocal booth singing it all. And it doesn't sound like it was overproduced or that they did 10,000 takes. It sounds like she went in there and kicked ass.
And you can recognize that she's working her ass off and she's doing a great job.
Exactly.
Just with that one little half second that they could have edited it out. But I am thrilled that they didn't. And the second breath is, No, I bring it up every time I'm showing somebody. I'm like, listen to the end. Listen to her breathe.
And like, it's a very, very conscious choice as well. Like they absolutely knew, like, should we edit that? No, keep that in. Like that sounds raw.
And I love it.
It's great. And it gives this song so much energy. Yeah, cool. So then she, the lyrics are like A, B, C, A structure. This is what you asked for. Heavy as the crown, fire in the sunrise, ashes raining down. Try to hold. Then she changes the melody there, like try to hold it in, but it keeps bleeding out. Which I have the note bleeding out. They thought I wouldn't notice. I caught it. This is what you asked for. Heavy as the crown. Cool. Yeah, I mean, she just nails it. Like she sounds great.
The
It's a
echo
good
off
melody.
that last crown is good too.
Yeah, which actually we're going to talk about that too after the second chorus. The only other note I'd have for this is that she has a low harmony, which is kind of hard to hear, but it really beefs this up. You know what I'm talking about?
I would like to hear it again.
Take a listen. It's I don't know the notes. Let me listen for the notes, but she does it during the this is what you before all the instruments come in, so you can hear it's a low harmony. Like the main vocal is this is what you asked for, and then the lower one is like this is what you asked for, something like that. But take a listen.
'Cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you
Did you hear it? It's like this is what you asked for.
It's hard for me to pull apart, truthfully.
So listen very closely. We're gonna try. We're gonna try.
Go over there.
Yeah, I think it actually is in this speaker. So obviously you're gonna hear the main take. This is what you asked for. But then listen underneath that. It's kind of low in volume. Try. It's gonna go like right now.
tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crowd.
Yeah, it's very well mixed in. It's very well sung. Like it sounds super tight with the main take, but it beefs it up just enough to give her like that extra oomph.
This is a really weird statement, and I recognize that as it's coming out of my mouth. But
Yeah.
as a visual artist, I draw digitally on my iPad with Procreate. What you're explaining with the highs and the lows, it makes me think of shadows and lights when you're drawing something and you have like the base color and you need like
Oh yeah.
the full shaping to really a sphere, right? You need that soft lighting on both sides to really understand that it's a 3D shape. Like
No,
I kind of
Well, actually, that's
there's a metaphor in there somewhere.
Well, that's actually a more apt description than you would think because she's singing a harmony. It's not, I don't think it's an octave. It's a harmony of some sort. I don't know what the exactly it is, but harmonies, like two notes being played at the same time, are what give music emotion. So like a minor chord is three notes being played at the same time, three different notes being played at the same time. And depending on what those three notes are, it can either be like a minor chord or a major chord or any other type of chord, depending on the three notes. But if you pick these three specific notes, like for example, the A minor chord is A, C, and E. The E minor chord is E, G, and B. But if I play E, G sharp, and B, that's now E major. That's an E major chord. So, long story short, let me explain it like this. If she sings an A note and then she does a harmony with a C, that creates what's called a minor third. She's now creating a minor tone chord with her vocals by layering those two notes. If she were to sing a C sharp over an A, she's now creating a major tone chord, and that's going to sound happy.
Got it.
So by having that harmony in there, it actually gives the vocals, even if you can't hear it consciously,
Emotion.
It gives her vocals like emotion beyond just the performance. The actual notes that she's hitting have emotion.
It's it's almost like telling you how you're supposed to interpret what she's saying, or
like they are adding the music is like the like the scene, the setting, the scenery, and then she's telling her side, like that's what the vocals and the lyrics do. But the like, because here's the thing, they could have put major chords there. They could have had it be really happy. Some songwriters write happy songs with major chords. Some songwriters write super dissonant heavy metal only minor chord songs. This song has a little bit of both. There's some major, some minor chords going back and forth. And so having that, because here's the thing, she could be singing like a minor chord one note and then switch to a major chord the next note depending on what the harmony does, right? And so that's how you create emotions and movements in your song. But yeah, the notes that she's hitting actually determine the emotion beyond just the way she sings it.
Thank you for explaining that.
There you go. So yeah, that's actually what's happening there, because that first note is definitely a minor chord note. It's very heavy, so that little harmony there just beefs it up enough. Let's listen again. Don't listen super close, but just like listen to how much oomph is there and how it really has like power. Yeah, maybe hold on. This might be a shot in the dark. But let's just see. I think this is actually like, this is one of my favorite things when vocalists do stuff like this. I want to see if we have the vocal track. We do. I think I should be able to play it through here.
It's pouring in. You're laid on the floor.
Yeah, we do have it. Sorry. Here we go. I'm going to pause myself so I can find where this is.
You notice, cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crowd. Fire in the sunrise. Ashes raining down. Try to hold it in, but it keeps bleeding out. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crowd.
Did you hear it?
Yeah, she sounds like she's singing like underwater almost.
Yeah, well, this is
fascinating.
Well, in order to pull a vocal track, you have to do weird stuff
Sure.
mix wise. So that's why it sounds ridiculous.
Oh no, I liked it.
but the notes, it's actually kind of, she's actually going like down, like, this is what you asked for, heavy is the crown, like, which
Yeah.
was kind of interesting. If you didn't quite catch it, listen back, no worries. But yeah, shout out to her for doing, you know, little bit of extra to make the song cooler. Okay, so then we come in. Okay, we got this nice little break here. Actually, I call these breaks. And so what this means is like a short little transitionary spot. But again, kind of continue with what I was saying about like good songsmanship. They could have taken this like 3-second section and just played the sample. Instead, they decided to warp the sample and do all this cool stuff with her delay and all of that. So yeah, check this out.
Turn to run now, look.
So yeah, that little like like just warping the sample a little bit. It's cool. Like, it's not, you know, it's not mind-boggling stuff, but it's like the accumulation of the details.
The stuff like that is what also makes me feel a bit nostalgic. There's a bit of that in the very, very beginning that I think we kind of talked about. But yeah, whatever those sounds are, and I'm sure it's Mr. Han coming in with his shit, right? But I love that. It adds to the nostalgic feeling, which
Yeah, no, just he's warping it with his DJ kit. I'm a guitarist. I don't know how all of that works necessarily, but sounds cool. I don't think that there's really anything significantly different musically in this second verse. Let's listen real quick and see.
Become outnumber 10 to 1. Back then should have bit your tongue, cause there's no turning back. This path once it's begun.
Okay, I think that actually there is. The pianos are much more significant. I think when I was talking about the first verse, I was thinking of this verse because the pianos are way more significant mix-wise in here. The bass also starts playing as well. Let's keep listening because I want to see if halfway through if there's another element that I might have missed.
Already on that list, say you don't want what you can't resist. Waving that sword when the pen won't miss. Watch it all falling apart like this.
No, it doesn't sound like it. Okay, so basically though, the pianos are much more prominent here than they were in the first verse, which is great because I think that they sound cool. What I was talking about earlier about that juxtaposition of like everything being dry and then having like these long reverby pianos, that's what's happening here on this verse. So let's listen.
Turn to run, now look what it's become. Outnumber 10 to 1. Back then should have bit your tongue, cause there's no turning back. This path once it's begun. You're already on that list. Say you don't want what you can't resist. Waving that sword when the pen won't miss. Watch it all falling apart like this. This is what you want.
So yeah, everything's pretty much the same, but I do like those little ringing out pianos.
And I'm a nostalgic one. I'm sorry, but those notes kind of bring me back to the Minutes to Midnight album a little bit. They used similar vibes in a lot of their songs. The overall was much different, but they used stuff like that a lot, I think.
I could definitely see that. Because I think Minutes to Midnight was like, it was a very cool album for them where they started to incorporate like slower stuff and maybe a little more like that epic sound that they started to take on later on.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe how they changed. They were softer in a way.
It's funny because I was talking with another, one of my friends, Travis, who, he said that I should go back and re-listen to like The Hunting Party. And I hadn't listened to that album since it came out. And I'll be honest, I think that there is definitely more guitar on that album and stuff. And it's like, quote unquote, heavier, but it still just kind of lacks the oomph.
When Transformers got involved, I wasn't interested much anymore after that. They just their vibe, but their whole mood changed. Like they weren't Hybrid Theory, they weren't Meteora, they weren't even really close. And they were emotion, they carried the emotion, so I could still see where you
Yeah.
know, you would listen and feel, but personally was not my vibe.
Yeah, like Bleed It Out and What I've Done.
Yeah.
Those are good. Bleed It Out was on.
Bleed It Out is amazing. Yes, what I've done is the Transformers song.
Yeah.
and not that I dislike
That's
it
fun.
because it's a Transformers song, but it's again overplayed. It's kind
Yeah.
of going back to the Nickelback. If it didn't play on the radio, I probably wouldn't dislike it as much. But
So you're a hipster.
oh no.
No. Yeah, it's tough to describe the way that they transitioned. It was because it's not like they got soft necessarily, but
And I don't want to be that fan who doesn't want the band to change, and I want them to stay the same.
I think,
that
yeah.
is not what I wanted from them. I just didn't like the change. And 30 Seconds to Mars is kind of comparable. They also went in a similar direction. They the kill is the guitar in that song. It's
yeah.
but just like Linkin Park kind of went into that like more electronic, more I don't know enough musical words to perfectly describe, but I think it was the mood of the 2010s to go for those bands to go in that direction.
And I personally think it was to their detriment.
Yes, I agree.
I think that they thought by moving into like more electronic sounds and things like that it could, like, it was this new direction that they could take. But I
new fans.
Yeah, but I feel like I think that they started to drop the ball on the things on the complexities that made their original stuff so much more interesting.
Yes, I completely, like how we were talking about 3 Days Grace earlier, and they were the mid, and Linkin Park was above. Yeah, they more have dropped to like that typical. They wanted to be on the radio. I think that, but but it's also kind of confusing because they were on there in the end and crawling, and
I brought this up on the Faint episode, I think, and Travis, if you're listening, just hear me out here, okay? Because you're my guy. I think what starts to happen with these bands, and maybe the point that I was trying to make with Linkin Park, is that what they started to do, what a lot of bands will do, is they start to like smooth over the rough edges to a degree.
And I don't enjoy it. I like the ruggedness.
I think the intention is that by, making the music more appealable in some ways, like they broaden the audience, but I actually don't think that's how you have the longevity, like true longevity. I think you have to find new avenues, but you have to keep being creative. And in my opinion, to be creative kind of means breaking out of the vibe. Like it means actually like pushing boundaries a little bit, doing new things. Now, again, like I went back and listened to Hunting Party, and there was a lot of cool, adventurous things on that album, but I don't think that the songwriting overall was better than like Meteora or Hybrid Theory. So just because they might have done like more and still had guitars doesn't mean that the quality was there to the same degree. So that's maybe a different conversation, but like in general, when bands go down this mainstream path, they want to appeal to more people. They want to keep growing as a band because that's what you intend. But the truth is that if you're a fan of a band, what comes along with that is that you want to follow the journey of that band. And so if the band is, no longer going on that journey, if the band is trying to kind of, or what am I trying to say here? If the band is not going on the journey and instead they're worried or concerned with keeping fans or growing new fans, instead of the journey and like finding new styles and finding new sounds and moving forward, I think that the fans actually start to fall off.
I would agree.
I think that's maybe the best way I can put it. And so when bands start to smooth out their rough edges, become more quote unquote mainstream,
conform,
they lose the thing that made people actually like them and want to that made people drawn to them.
All of that being said, I think that it was a great growth period, and if it brought us to this album, I'm totally here for it. And I'm gonna keep living in my bubble of the first 3 albums of Linkin Park, and that's what exists in my world. And now I don't even know what album this would be, 6 or 7 or something, but it's kind of like the Pokemon games, the 4th gen came out, and who cares? First 3 gens,
I never even played. I played Diamond and Pearl, but I didn't play Black and White.
That was where I fell out. I fell off in Diamond and Pearl.
I liked Diamond. Diamond was fun.
The DS. screwed me up. I wanted the handheld.
DS
Two screens, dude. Pokemon's about the one screen. All right. Anyway.
What? All right. Regardless. Wild take there. Okay, let's go through his lyrics in verse 2. So he says, turn to run, now look what it's become, outnumbered 10-1. Back then should have bit your tongue, because there's no turning back there's no turning back this path once it's begun. Shout out to Mike for being able to say that quickly. You're already on that list. Say you don't want what you can't resist. Waving that sword when the pen won't miss. Watch it all falling apart like this. So I think that this verse, again, the vibe of this verse is very different from the first verse. The first verse is very, like, to me, kind of feels a little more like, what's the word? I don't know. Am I crazy here? I'm looking at the first verse. It's pouring in, you're laid on the floor again, one knock at the door, and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Maybe I wasn't interpreting this right, or I wasn't thinking about it right. So I was doing so low. Yeah, okay, so I think this first verse kind of felt like more of a, like you're getting backed up against a wall to a degree. Like, it's pouring in, you're laid on the floor again. Like, that line could be the person that he's talking to, or he could be talking to the listener. And it could be the listener thinking about the position that they're in. Whereas I think that this second verse is definitely a bit more
action,
aggressive, like number 10-1, back then should have bit your tongue. Like, he's definitely saying that to the oppositional force that the song is portraying, right? Other than that, yeah, these are all cool. You're already on that list. That's cool. And then saying, like, watch it all fall apart, watch it all falling apart like this, and then it cuts immediately into Emily singing. Again, keeping that momentum going, really cool. Yeah, like, no slowing down. We've got our momentum, and we're gonna keep going. Let's listen to that transition, because there's a pretty intense sweep. Like I don't know what instrument it is. It might just be a synth, but that zoop into the second chorus. Check it out. Okay, the right spot? Yeah.
Resist, waving that sword when the pen won't miss. Watch it all falling apart like this. This is what you asked for.
Yeah, so that sweep comes up and stops right when she starts to sing. So yeah, cool. There's no difference in the second chorus, so we're gonna just move past that to the bridge. So this bridge is kind of interesting. I've got a few notes on it. First off, it's essentially the pre-chorus, except there's, like, think about if the pre-chorus were doubled and all the vocals were just moved to the second half. So the first half, no vocals, it's just soft guitar. I think it's guitar. It could be synth or piano, but it sounds like a guitar to me. And then, so yeah, let's just listen to that real quick.
Today's gonna be the day you notice, 'cause I'm tired of explaining what you do. This is what you...
Nope, not yet. So
You just like teasing me.
look, it's just, we got to get through it. We got to section by section.
No, that section's sick, honestly. As much as I want it to be over because my favorite part's coming up, it's so good.
It really is great. And so there's a couple cool things that happen there. So you got those good, I really do think it's a guitar playing, and that's cool. But her vocal delay actually plays throughout the entire section. It keeps going, it never stops, and then it actually builds up in volume once you reach the end. I don't know if you noticed that. I didn't notice it until I was really closely listening, but check it out and just pay attention to her vocal delay on the word crown.
Today's gonna be the day you know.
It's still going. Did you hear it still going?
I guess so.
Listen on headphones and just listen as close as you can to that crown, 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 because it goes throughout the entire thing and then it builds up in volume once right before she starts the scream. Let's listen one more time. You hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's super cool because that's a way, like, even if you don't consciously hear it, there is that crown, 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 crown happening in the background, which keeps this part from fully becoming like soft and calm. And so it's like a subconscious thing.
Keeping the tension almost.
Exactly. And then the guitars start, like, there's a pretty, like, hefty guitar fade in around 145, you know. Obviously it's pretty, you can't miss it, but it's still cool because there's actually like harmonized guitar fade ins. There's 2 guitars fading in, so listen to both of those. So yeah, and then the last thing is that there's a little sweep that right before she starts the scream. So here we are. We finally made it. This is the this is what we asked for. Let's just play this scream out because it's really fucking cool.
This is what you asked for! This is what you asked for!
So yeah.
This song belongs in Triple X, man, with fucking Vin Diesel and just his badass, like jumping out of planes and all like that part. I'm just like, rah! Like it makes me think of that badass, early 2000s. I love it.
No,
old good
hard rock.
action movies and just flames and war and.
This part is awesome. And I mean, we were talking a lot about like the marketing of this album rollout and of Emily, and it's like, I don't think that this would have been good to release as the first song because everyone would have claimed that she's trying to copy Chester, because you know about like Chester's, what was it, 20-second scream, you know about that,
like specifically one time he did that.
Yeah, there's a song where he does it.
Okay,
it's a big 20-second song. I'm sorry, to everyone, I can't remember the song off the top of my head. Google it real quick, but there's a very famous Chester song where he does like I do believe it's like a 20 or 21-second scream. It's absolutely nuts. And I think that if this song was released first, everyone would have jumped to those comparisons. And so yeah, by having the Emptiness Machine come out first, get people sort of acclimated, and then it's like, okay, everyone's ready to go. Giving Up. I think
Meteor, I think.
Yeah, let's play Giving Up actually, because that's a dope song. Hold on, we're gonna pull it up. Is it out? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 17-second scream.
17-second. So hers is about 15 seconds. So it might have been intentional. It might not have been. Who knows? Oh my god, Linkin Park has so many like albums and re-releases.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, it was actually on Minutes of Midnight.
Really? Okay. I did not know. Let's check it out.
What the fuck is wrong with
What's the wrong song? We might have the wrong song. I could have sworn it was on Meteora.
I also thought it was on Meteora.
We are dropping the ball
like
here,
it's saying-
everybody.
Oh, it's gonna play the whole song. It says "Given Up" live 17-second scream of Chester. So
Hold on, let's see how many. Yeah, it's definitely Given Up. I recognize that. Hold on, let's let it play again. That's nuts.
I've given.
And you
Yeah.
know, they kind of left his breaths in too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I remember the first time I heard that. I literally remember where I was the first time I heard it. I was in my basement and my friend showed this to me on the computer and I was like, what? Like, how is he doing that? It was crazy. Okay, what was the song we were just doing? Heavy
He's
as
the crown.
Whew. All right, we're getting there, everybody. Okay. So yeah, that scream is absolutely nuts that she does though. It sounds great. I mean, she nailed it. She really did. It fit. Another thing I want to note is that it actually fits in with the theme of the song too, which is like everyone's asking, like everyone's pushing you around, like expecting this of you.
Watch this.
Fucking deliver. Like,
Yep.
you know, don't bullshit. So that's great. So yeah, underneath it, we've got a really awesome guitar riff playing. You know, it's not too distracting from her scream because she's obviously like the focal point here, but it's an awesome little breakdown riff.
And they like broke it down into like 4 different, I don't know, musical words, but the music seems to like almost repeat itself 4 times while she's screaming, and it seems to make it seem longer. You know, you're like,
Well,
God, the music's still going, and she's still going.
Well, so actually, I was going to comment on this. They actually add an extra measure at the end. So we are used to 4/4 timing in songs, so like 1 2 3 4 2 2 3 4, and then we're actually acclimated to listening to like 4 groups of 4. So our brains know like, okay, cool, we've reached the halfway point, and then it doubles again, and we know that it doubles. But they actually add 1 extra measure at the very end, which really, so it is literally what you're saying. Like they intentionally stretched it out longer than what we were. My specific note is they add a 9th measure at the end of the scream to stretch it out. The listener will naturally be expecting it to end earlier.
And it's true, because every time I hear it, or if I'm showing the 10 people I've showed this song to, I'm like, she's still going. I say it every single time, and I think it every single time. It's just it as if she's singing it every single time, and I expect her to stop, right? No, but it amazes me. I've listened to it 100 times, and I love it.
It's a very intentional. Let's listen one more time, and I'm gonna actually count it out for you so you can see, because I think it's cool. And so to the listener, count out like 1 2 3 4 2 2 3 4 3 2 3 4, and you'll end up at 9 2 3 4, which again, that's 1 extra measure from the 8 that we would expect. See, so it's funny because you pointed out the halfway point, because we like naturally know when 4 measures are up, so we know that. So then when we hit the end of the 8th measure, like another 4 pass,
your jaw drops.
You're expecting, okay, cool, we've reached the end of the section, and they know that because they're good songwriters, so they say add 1 more, and then it's like, wait, like,
holy shit,
she can't what
is she doing?
She's breaking the rules. So yeah, it's super smart. Yeah, I mean, that guitar riff is really cool too. I do want to note out something that you might not have noticed. There's actually a high-pitched guitar, like a lead guitar playing in there too. It's in the background. It's very distorted. Try to listen for it. Listen through the scream and through the rhythm guitars, and you'll hear it like kind of in the middle, very high pitched, like kind of like a screeching guitar.
Okay.
Let's take it back. So yeah, ignore her scream, ignore the guitars, listen for the high pitched guitar.
That's what you asked for!
as a non-musician, my brain cannot separate those two as two separate guitars. It sounds like the same one is making more noise, which I guess when I thoroughly think that out, that doesn't make any sense, which means that there's two guitars. But just so you know where my brain goes, you're like, listen to that other guitar. Once you point it out, I'm like, okay, got it.
Yeah, like it's like na 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 na. Like I think it's really easy to hear different guitar parts with like Apple headphones, like earphones, like these, that just go right in your ear. And the reason why is because they're very trebly, and guitars are like inherently trebly instruments, not a lot of bass. So like put the headphones on and then focus in the middle. Do you know how stereo panning works?
Like why the bass is over there and the high pitched noises are over here type.
Well, kind of. Maybe a better question is listen to it and hear how she actually sounds like she's coming from right here.
Turn to run, now look what it's become. Outnumbered 10 to 1. Back then should have bit your tongue, cause there's no turning back.
So, okay, let me just explain. So
I understand what you're saying. It's hard for me to like.
Here's what's happening. Because think about it like this. You've got the two speakers, and what you can do when you're mixing is you can make it so that the exact same sound comes out of both speakers, which is unnatural for our ears. So because of the way that our ears work and like placement wise, if we hear the exact same sound in each ear, it must be like our brain tells us it's in front of us. It's directly in front of us. Because think about it, like if I snap my fingers right in front of my face, that exact sound is going to hit both ears at the same time.
Right.
So when we're mixing audio, her vocal track is coming out of both speakers at the same volume. It's the exact same.
Okay.
But then you can put a sound in only the right speaker and then like one that's only in the left speaker. And our brain will interpret that as being, if it's actually only in the right speaker, that actually our brain interprets it as being almost kind of behind us, because that's the only way that our left ear would not pick that sound up. And so by doing this, you can like, and it works with your, imagine like, what am I trying to say? You can increase and decrease the volume of a sound in each speaker to fool your brain into thinking that it's like going around you or that it's anywhere in front of you or around you.
Sure, like in a movie theater when the sounds are really loud, you hear footsteps on the left side but not the right.
Exactly. So that they panned the footsteps only to the left, and that's why it sounds like it's behind you.
Right.
So the audio, like mixing engineers do this to well, I say fool your brain. What they're really
place you in the
what they're really doing is creating a full spectrum of sound around you. So you can have like, that's why when you're listening to songs with your earphones on, you feel like you're in the middle of the music. It's because to your brain, you are. If there's sounds that are over here, like behind you, behind your ears, and if there's sounds that are maybe like, kind of to the right and kind of to the left, and then if the singer is right in front of you singing at you, you are in the middle of the music.
Which is kind of like an actual concert, right? Like usually the singer's singing in the middle and you got a guitarist on the left and another on the right. Fascinating.
No, exactly. So it's all just like something that audio engineers will do to fool you into thinking that there is like a full spectrum of sound around you.
Very interesting.
So when you're listening now, like next time you're listening, especially with headphones, pay attention to just the right ear and see what you can hear only there.
This conversation is making me realize that I just have never thought about it before. I bought headphones for the first time in the last year or two, but for gaming, and it changed my life, footsteps and things. And I don't even I don't play shooters, but just story mode games and whatever. It changed gaming for me. But I'm actually trying to think. I don't think I listen to any music in headphones. I have speakers at my desk. I listen to them in my car, or like when I'm in the shower, I play out of a speaker there. But my point being, I should listen to music more in headphones, and I would be able to probably pinpoint the instruments a bit better if I started to do that.
I would especially look up like an Avenged Sevenfold song, because they've got when they do like the dual harmonies, a lot of times they'll have one guitar in the right speaker, one guitar in the left speaker, and you can very clearly hear that difference. Actually, real quick, this will be a side note, but it's a really cool like example of this that if you don't consciously pay attention to it, you might not catch it. So like when you become aware of like that's how it works, listen to like this guitar solo here at the end. This is a Sidewinder by Avenged Sevenfold. So the guitar switch, the solo switch from the left speaker to the right speaker, but now listen to this because at the end of that solo, they actually start to like go back and forth.
Is that two different instruments?
No, that's two guitars.
It's two different guitars though.
Yeah, it's just two separate guitarists playing, and
because they almost sound seamless except for the fact that they are coming through different speakers.
yeah, it's the lead guitarist, Sinister Gates, and then that's actually his dad, and so they're both excellent guitarists and they're perfectly on point, and so they are just, they've written that composition, but like if you only listen to the right speaker, you'll just hear like da 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 da,
right,
da 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 da.
And I specifically, that brings me back to good old middle school before we had wireless headphones, and you were waiting for school to start in the morning, and you're sharing headphones with somebody, and you get stuck with
yeah, exactly. No,
with half the guitar.
That's exactly it, though. Like that's part of it. So anyway, all of that is to say, check out the. Yeah, I know. Emptiness Machine has 198 million streams. That's insane.
Just on Spotify.
Yeah, just on Spotify. That song has blown up. Yeah, all of this is to say that if I'm saying like listen to the middle, I mean in the stereo spectrum, the sound will, if you're listening with speaker or headphones on, it will sound like it's right in front of you. Kind of with the vocals. So yeah. What you got?
I was trying to look up the streams on YouTube.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
No
internet.
Apparently.
Okay, cool.
We're at 83 million plays on Emptiness Machine on YouTube and 77 million on Heavy as the Crown. I would say at least 2 million of those are me.
That's pretty cool that Heavy as the Crown has gotten so far up, like close to Emptiness Machine. I think Linkin Park are knocking it out of the park with this thing. So
Emptiness Machine was, all right, let's see what they got. This song came out and I was like,
this is what they got.
Wait, I'm sorry, there's a tour. How do I get tickets? I don't care how much they are. I need to be there. I need to see, I want to see Emily Armstrong in the beginning. I want to see her raw kind of before she figures it out. And she's slowly figuring it out,
Yeah.
But I think that would be a unique experience. Next time they tour, it won't be quite the same.
Definitely. Cool. So, okay, bringing it back around. Let's listen to this, like the scream ending and going into the third chorus, because they do a really cool thing where it's like everything's going crazy and heavy, and then right when she starts the third chorus, they cut all the music out for like the first 2 beats and then slam back in on the third beat. I believe it's the third beat. Okay, sorry, it was a full measure. It was a full 4 beats. But yeah, that's just really cool. Again, another little detail that they add in there to have some dynamics to the song. I don't think there's any other changes in the final chorus. So then we just have this outro here, which starts at 2:20. So let's listen to that real quick. It's pretty much just a breakdown of the chorus. Oh, and we bring that synth back in. So I'm gonna pause it there real quick. Yeah, again, like nothing went to waste in this song. So they wrote this really interesting synth line and had it in the intro, and then they very intelligently just put it at the end. And it's like, yeah, I've heard that before and it sounds cool, and it's actually got this like grand epicness to it, and really does a good job of like ending or bookending the song. And then so that's kind of like the heavier outro, and then we've got this soft fade out here where we get to listen to that, you know, Regal sample one last time, played with the synth. Yeah, that's it. That's the song.
Can we play it again?
The whole song?
Yeah, let's no, always. That's my immediate response to every time the song ends. Can we play it again?
We're at an hour and 45 minutes now.
It's on repeat in my head, bro.
Yeah, that song's great. So,
no, it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely definitely a good one. So yeah, I think the last little piece of this puzzle is I've got my little songwriting breakdown template here, so we can just run through this real quick. So the purpose, I talk about this a lot, purpose. Like, why is this song written? What is it supposed to do? Like, why did they make this at all? So I think that this song, like, from a marketing perspective, was made to continue to build up the new the new Linkin Park era and showcase Emily Armstrong more, a bit more in what she can do now that people are more comfortable for her. You know, I think from a songwriting perspective, I think they just wanted to write something that was a little more like their older stuff, but with some of the newer things that they've learned, like new techniques and songwriting skills that they've learned. And just to have fun. Like, this song, it definitely sounds like they were really passionate while writing it and like enjoyed tweaking little things and said, hey, Mr. Hahn, can you like tweak the sample during that break, you know? A lot of fun stuff. So I think that's what I think about the purpose of this song. It's just fun songwriting. The genre, you know, it's kind of funny. When I was thinking about this, it's very much like their old stuff, like rap rock, new metal, that type of thing. I mean, I think that's about it. Rap rock, new metal is about, I mean, that's like classic Linkin Park. So yeah, song structure. I thought the song structure was excellent, actually. Very concise. There were no wasted moments. Moving the pre-chorus or the second pre-chorus after the chorus and using it as a bridge, I thought was a really cool thing. I've never seen anyone do that. And then having the climax, you know, just be this really big, heavy breakdown before coming back into kind of an extended epic chorus. You know, it was awesome. So yeah, I really like the song structure. I mean, the song is, you know, speaking of song structure, the song is less than 3 minutes. I mean, it's 2 minutes, 45 seconds, but it's got more going on than like some 5-minute songs, you know? So I really love that. Compositionally, it's a cool song. The sample is really interesting to listen to. It's a very unique sample. Mike is rapping like a monster. Emily sounds great. Her melodies are really good. The guitar parts all sound good. The riff during the big breakdown is pretty cool. There's lots of little compositional details, like the piano in the verses, or like those little like knocking sounds in the first pre-chorus. You know, lots of little details to kind of chew on. Looking at the mix, I think the mix sounds great. Like, it's got a lot of bite to it and oomph. The drums are dry. The guitars sound good. You can hear everything very clearly. We talked about that a lot. I think that's just a sign of a good mix, being able to hear everything really clearly, especially if there's lots of layers and if one of those layers is electric guitar, because it's really hard to mix electric guitars in with just about anything. So shout out to them for making it all work. Lyrical content, you know, I think it's open for interpretation, but personally, I take it as being tired of holding back, and like, you just want to let loose on those who either have been egging you on or doubting you. And that kind of brings me into the theme, which is, you know, the theme to me is, if everyone is expecting you to bring it, or alternatively not expecting much out of you, why don't you show them what you're made of? And I think that's what they did on this song.
They said, hold my beer.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, my final verdict on this song is that it's really, really great. It's a really great song. It's very concise, well produced. It stays interesting all throughout. And then, you know, really the big moment in the song is this awesome climax with her scream that, to me, is great on its own. just as like a performance, but also fits perfectly in with the theme of the song. And I think that extra, thematic layer really, really makes it all work.
It's a war cry for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So yeah, there we go. We did it. We made it through. What'd you think?
That was a lot of fun, actually. I do have one little bit of random trivia that I did not get to throw in organically, so I'm going to throw it in now.
Okay.
But I thought this was very interesting. This album cover here, for those who haven't seen it, please go look it up. It kind of looks like some fluid paint between black and pink, and it's got a little LP in the circle.
Yeah.
Here. Do you know anything about this album cover?
I don't actually.
Just curious. How do you think that they like came up with that?
That to me looks like here, hold on, I can pull up a bigger version. Honestly, part of me thinks it's like something under a microscope or something, like Play-Doh under a microscope. I don't know.
Fascinating. And see, I just assumed it is a bit, their album covers are, the first three had people, right? But then they got kind of weird. Then they were more organic shapes and lights and whatever, stuff like this. So anyway, so I think honestly, I didn't put much thought into it, but I think I assumed it was AI, just, some weird art or even a fluid art, whatever. This is a photograph taken in between two panes of glass. So it's quite literally the only of its kind. It's the only photograph that'll ever be taken of this. I thought it was fascinating.
Really?
Yes.
What is it? Like what is the pink stuff?
I believe it's paint.
Oh, just paint. Okay, yeah.
I didn't quite. One of the band members is really into photography. I was working while listening to a podcast, but they have about an hour long interview that they speak about it.
Yeah. Real quick, the album is called From Zero, everybody. That's the name of the album, and it comes out November 15th. So here in about a month, a little less than a month. We're recording this on October 22nd. So now you got me curious what the album cover is. So it's a photograph though.
It is definitely a photograph between two glass panes. What the actual substance matter is, I'm not exactly 100% sure, but I can send you the unfortunately I can send you the link.
Okay. Yeah. No, that sounds
But
good.
unfortunately I don't have the answer at the moment. right in front. I should have been listening.
Oh no, it's all
It was
good.
a good hour-long interview, but
Cool.
I just...
Yeah, to that point, I think Linkin Park's album covers, I loved the first two. I'll be honest, like we were talking, I think bands are supposed to progress and move forward. I think by the time they came out with The Hunting Party, that was like their third album cover that had like white, that was primarily white. And I was getting a little bit, personally, I was like a little disappointed by that. I think, especially with music, you only get, like with music, you really, you can have more images, but the truth is you get one image to nail home the vibe.
And maybe a music video if you're lucky, but
Right.
especially, it's sitting on your car radio when you're driving.
Yeah.
That's the visual representation.
Ultimately, like, yeah, you can have great music videos and stuff, but ultimately when people think about your music or your album, they're going to be thinking of the image on the album cover, the primary image. Even if you have, you do like the Taylor Swift thing and you've got like 50 album covers or whatever, like that main image is the one that is going to go on in perpetuity. Right, like that's the one that's going to be on the news sites and Wikipedia and all of that. So I think, picking that and really making each album distinct from each other, I think is very important, like from an artistic perspective. So, Minutes to Midnight was cool with the black and white with their shadows. Then you had A Thousand Suns. I actually didn't really like that album cover.
I did not like that.
And then you had The Hunting Party, which again, just kind of white and gray. And I'm like, okay, guys, like, where's the color at? Where's the color? And I know they had One Last Light, which was, a little bit, it had like a sepia tone to it, I believe.
It's pouring in.
Whoop, sorry. Sorry about that. We're getting canceled now. But yeah, to me, it was definitely like, I started to get kind of like, well, what's, come on guys, where's your colors at? Or how does the vibe of this album actually differ from the vibe of the other albums? And so I personally was happy to see that they chose some bold colors for this one. I love the, like, whatever you want to call that, like graphite black. And then the pink is super interesting. And hey, they've got a girl singer now. Like, appeal to the girlies a little bit. I don't know. I'm just messing around. But like the point being, like, look, at least there's some color. It's fun. And yeah, album comes out in like, I guess 3 weeks now. Yeah, about 3 weeks. So it'll be really exciting.
I'm hyped. I'm excited for just a couple days from filming. It'll be out, I think, by the time the episode premieres. But I am excited.
Episode?
This episode? Yeah, the new song comes out in 2 days.
We didn't mention the new song.
We did not.
So there is a new song coming out this Friday, apparently. So by the time this episode is out, there will be a new song.
Yes.
So woohoo. Yeah. But yeah, the album itself will be out in about 3 weeks. So hey, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be great.
Very hyped. Very excited. Yeah. Overall fun episode. Thanks for having me, Cam.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll be sure to bring my headphones next time so that way I can hear the super intricate things that you're trying to point out to my less trained ears. I need the technology behind me,
some people can hear it, some people can't. Like that's just
we're just gonna train my ears. That's all.
We'll get there.
Yeah. But overall, it's fun sitting on this side of the computer screen. This was a good time, and I love this song. And yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it was great having you on. It was a lot of fun. Again, thank you for helping me get all of this streaming stuff set up to begin with. It's much appreciated. What are you trying to...
I was just making sure the microphone was working.
Oh.
Because you can't see it.
Yeah, it's down there.
All right, we're good.
Yeah, we're still good. Everyone can still hear us. All right,
we made
cool.
it through almost the whole episode without checking the mic.
I've been watching it.
No, me too. That's why the moment it wasn't on screen.
No, because we had all those audio issues in the first few episodes. I am like, no more.
I know.
Sit and I just stare at it.
And I thought it would be fun to do an in-person episode as well, but also, to diminish on our potential audio problems. It helped with that too. So
cool.
Right.
Well, I think that's a wrap on this episode. We usually have like a random factoid that we give at the end of each episode. We started doing that recently.
Personal factoids?
Anything. It's just any fact that you want to leave the listeners with.
Oh shit! But that was my album cover. That was my factoid. I gave it at the wrong spot.
You know what? Yeah. Okay, that's a good factoid. Sounds good.
All right, that was mine.
It is a photograph, everybody. Mine would be. Oh man, I don't know. What is mine? For those of you who don't know accounting, the International Financial Reporting Standards, also known as it's called IFRS, is the European standard for accounting, and United States we use what's called GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles, and those are the two primary standards of global accounting. So yeah.
That wasn't on my bucket list for this podcast, but thank you for educating me on.
No problem. Yeah, we discussed it today at work, and so when I was thinking like, what's information I learned today, it's like, well, I already knew that, to be fair, but there you go.
Now I know.
Now,
and now you know.
Now all of y'all know. Everyone knows.
Now we all know. Now we're all accountants.
Cool.
All right.
You want to hit him with a wale? You know.
I do know.
All right.
I do know.
Here we go. Wale.